Hello and welcome back to our weekly TV discussions. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom. Thank you for joining us again today.
Yeah, I always enjoy having these discussions, and I know, Mom, we're discussing a series that, of course, we're pretty fond of.
Yes, we are. Today we're going to discuss growing pains, and and it's going to be for us another one of our premiere slash pilot days.
Yes, and so this one is a series pilot, and specifically, this one is also titled Pilot. It debuted in September of 1985, and I would say that out of the shows that we've spoken about, this is probably one of the most pilot episodes that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I think so. It's very obvious that, anyone watching will know this is the first episode of this show.
Yeah, and so I would say that from everything from the setup of the episode to the plot development execution, it just felt very much like a pilot episode. And Mom, I know that we've spoken about quite a bit of pilots and series premieres, and I would say that this checks almost all the boxes. What do you think?
I think it really does check most of the boxes. And actually, it was kind of a breath of fresh air because it was nice to have everything kind of introduced to us. It was nice to have all the characters just kind of come out. They call each other by name. It was just very nice to have all of that just set up immediately.
Yeah, and so the episode, of course, at least in this version that we've seen, starts off with a little summary as to what the series is before even going into the theme song and then going straight into the plot of everything. And a lot of times for these pilot episodes, we see a big initiating event. In this episode, the initiating event, I would say, is the mother of the series, Maggie, is returning to work after, I believe, 15 years of being a stay-at-home mom.
Yes, they did say that. It's basically, in essence, about a married couple with three children, two boys and a girl. Two of them are teenagers, and just about the mom who's going back into the workforce after being at home for 15 years. And then kind of the switching side of the dad who has, of course, worked during that time period, but he is now working from home.
Yeah, and in this too, I know it's a big adjustment for everyone getting adjusted to it with the littlest child, Ben asking his mom, why do you have to go back to work? And her explaining, well, I don't have to, I want to.
Yep, that's true. She does say she wants to go back to work, and she even had an analogy for him. And so which is very nice to hear. And it was nice that the episode itself was not necessarily about her going back to work. That just happened to be there. The episode itself could really stand alone at the same time because it was about an event with their son that occurred.
Yeah, and so for a little bit of background into that, so because the dad, Dr. Jason Seaver, since he is now at home, he's the one taking care of the of his children, and so being the parental figure, he's now asked, all these questions, and one of them being, yeah, Dad, can I go out to this, 18 and under club? And it's like, well, can I trust you? And he decides to accept total responsibility.
Yep, and the dad decides later that he is not ready for total responsibility, or his wife helps him to know that. But yes, and so he does go out to a club. Mike is the name of the son who goes out to the club, and he's 15 years old. And the Maggie and Jason, the parents, get a phone call later saying that their son is now in jail. And so they had to go and pick him up, and they find out that that Mike has driven the car around I guess the building or area a few times, and of course he's 15 and does not have a license, which is why he was of course put in jail. He also sideswiped the police car also. And his friend who was going to be with was of course of age meaning 16, but he is passed out in the jail cell. So Mike, of course, is very not Mike. Jason is the dad is very upset with Mike because he is caught, and he goes home and true Jason Seaver manner, he overreacts, probably more than he should have.
Yeah, and I would say too that I think this episode did a decent job at sort of exploring where the series might go, but in in the traditional manner of pilot episodes, characterization not may not be 100% how it is for the rest of the series, but it's more so just a setter upper and trying to see as much of you can get out of the series shown within a single outing for the episode.
Yeah. And you could tell very quickly they did like Brandon kind of mentioned, because it is a kind of a setter upper type of episode. They very quickly let you know that Mike is the one who potentially gets in trouble quite a bit. I mean, Maggie even talks about that. We know that Carol is the studious one. They kind of allude to that, and then Ben is just the who's the youngest. He is the one who kind of wants his mom really to stay home because he is much younger.
And something I found interesting in this episode, in retrospect, is even though I think it did this episode did a good job at sort of setting up, like, the characters and the plot and the family, is we see that, Ben really, wants his mom at home. We have Mike who's trying to test the boundaries with his dad and accept more responsibility, but we don't really see a lot of Carol and what she thinks in this episode, aside from eavesdropping on our dad with his patients.
Yep, that's very true. It's very true. And maybe they're trying to tell us something a little there. Of course, I can tell the audience I have watched, of course, more episodes, and so we do learn that Carol does have a little bit of a life a little bit later on in the series.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen a good majority, if not all, of the series as well. And yeah, but Mom, what would you say are some things that that we've learned within this first episode?
Well, within the first episode, we do learn, and some of the things we've already hit on. We know that Maggie is returning to the workforce. I don't think they necessarily said what she did in this particular episode, but we do know that she's returning to the workforce, and is after 15 years. We know that there are three children here. We know that Jason works from home and that he is a psychiatrist. We know that Mike is the oldest, who gets in trouble a lot of times. We learn, like, kind of mentioned that Carol is studious, and well, like, once more, we learn about Ben, who doesn't want his mother to really go back to work, and then we also learn that Jason is over dramatic. And one of the other things that we got to talk about a little bit is that this episode also concentrates on the couple and not just the children. And so, by bringing that up, it kind of shows that there's another layer to the relationship between the five of them, is that the parents are their own lives, along with their kids having their own lives too, which kind of, I think, might foreshadow that some of the episodes, it's not just going to be about the kids, it's going to be about them as a family, but then them as a couple too.
And I will say about that too is that while I feel like the series does a good job at balancing, characterizing all of the all the main characters, is that I feel like this pilot episode really emphasized or overemphasized the role of the parents as a couple, in the sense that, like, every few minutes it just felt like, oh, okay, let's go get together and have some quality time or whatever the case may be. Whereas of course, in later episodes and seasons, that I think it's more like natural and built into the plot. But again, like we say, I mean, pilot episodes oftentimes have to, you know, set up the groundwork for everything and establish everything. And sometimes in more, just blunt ways than others, just spell it all out, similar to, the full names of characters being said out loud.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I guess for overall ease, if we want to talk about that a little bit, for me, this was an easy episode to watch. We did watch it twice recently, and so, but it didn't feel long. It felt like it was just the right amount of time and enough development for you to know about the series itself.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed the episode. And Mama, are you able to share a little bit? Like, what are your thoughts about the character Dr. Jason Seaver?
Oh, I love Jason Seaver. I think he's a great character because he's funny, and of course, this is played by Alan Thicke. And but Jason itself is just he's a funny person, and so he has a good relationship with his children, and it was just the way that he acts around them. It just seems very natural. But I mean, you do have to chuckle because he does do things that are just kind of funny. And then, of course, I think Mike also is a good person that they kind of play really well off of each other.
Yeah, and I think something about Dr. Seaver as well. Since you mentioned that he plays really well off of Mike, is even though even though he does feel like Mike is a bit immature for his age. I mean, that stays true throughout the rest of the series. Is you're able to see a bit that he actually relates to Mike a lot, and especially to his younger self. And so, but I like that the series works to show that even though he has a professional background in handling people's problems, that he doesn't seem to quite be able to manage his own family's problems,
Yeah.
which I think adds a little bit to the humor of it, because he always tries to be very serious, but because he's just so oblivious to some things, I think it just adds such great humor for the series.
Yeah, it does. It is very the whole series itself is just kind of fun to watch. And
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
definitely is. It's an enjoyable series. Yeah, for me to watch, and like I said, and Doctor Seaver's definitely one of my favorite TV dads. But I did want to speak about a little bit of some little connections we've had to some previous shows we've spoken about.
all right, what kind of connections do we have, Brad?
Well, first of all, since we were mentioning Dr. Seaver, as you mentioned, he's played by Alan Fick, and Alan Fick was the composer, or rather, he sung the theme songs for the show Different Strokes, and he also helped write the theme song for The Facts of Life, which was sung by his wife at the time. We also have, oh, there's so many. At the beginning of the episode, Maggie is singing the theme song to one of your favorite shows.
Yeah, who's the boss? And which is the first time in the many years that I've watched the show that I have it that I realized that she was singing. I really didn't know she was humming at the beginning, or maybe I ignored it. I don't know, but it was good to see that she was humming the "Who's the Boss" theme song. And I will say that in the Growing Pains series itself, that they do allude a lot of times to other shows, and they allude to their own personal selves within the shows itself. So not just the actor, but the act them as actors per se. They'll kind of allude to that.
Yeah, and so that's definitely a fun part of of the series as well. And of course, the actress for Carol, Tracy Gold, her sister played in the series Benson that we also spoke about.
Yes, yes, she sure did. She sure did. And I don't think Missy Gold came on to. She didn't come on to Growing Pains, I don't think. But Tracy Gold went to play a couple episodes on Benson.
Yeah, and so that definitely was a you know a fun episode of Benson to watch. And yeah, and I'm sure that there's some other connections as well. Oh,
Uh,
actually, one I just remembered about is that Growing Pains and the series we spoke about last week, Perfect Strangers, actually alternate time slots on their inaugural season.
yeah, and you're forgetting one other one, Brandon. That the set of Growing Pains was used for the first episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Oh yeah, that is true as well. I said so many little connections all over the place for the series.
Yes, yes. And Brand, we got to talk about the theme song.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. I absolutely love the theme song. If the audience does know that I'm a theme song person. Although I don't know all the words, I do just kind of hum and act like I do. And so I really do like the theme song for Growing Pains. And then throughout the years, I like the way they kind of use the theme song to kind of, as they change the movement or the people at the beginning of the show or um, they did it, I think, very effectively one year when they kind of showed exactly which episode it was during the theme song by having a particular person kind of stand out. But but yeah, so the theme song is really great.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, it just sets up the series really well, and and there's a little different variations of it, of course, throughout the series. But I like that it stays, mostly consistent throughout it, though, even with the small changes.
Yep, same here. Same here.
Well, Mom, is there anything else that you want to share for this pilot episode of Growing Pains? I feel like there's just so much to speak about, but I just think that there's just such an enjoyable episode.
Yeah, no, it's just like you've kind of mentioned. It's an enjoyable episode. It truly is just your iconic type of pilot episode, and so be interesting to see what people in the who are watching us think. Please write in the comments. What do you think about Growing Pains or this particular pilot episode? Go ahead and rewatch it again and see if you can find some other tidbits to let us know about.
Yeah, definitely. Please do. And of course, always watch with us so that way you can comment on the series as well. And like I said, this has been Growing Pains from Warner Bros. Television.
Yeah, thank you for watching today.
And we'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye, everybody.